With Justin Clark on ESPN 580 Orlando.
Hold up. Wait, you can't hear anything? That might be my stupid headset. I got you now. Now I can. Here we go. And welcome to the program. It's another edition of Behind the Law with Justin Clark and Allie Mack right here on ESPN 580, here to answer any legal question that you may have, anything from accident to zoning. Dial up the phones, 321-282-1055. Plenty of information on the website, www.youhavepower.com. Plenty of ways to interact with the program. You can follow our Facebook page at Behind the Law Radio. Watch the show live there. You can ask us questions right there live as well if you want. Also, do not forget to watch the TV show Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. Central Florida's 27. It's Behind the Law. Justin Clark and Allie Mack on TV. If you're not going to be home, it's an easy solution. Just go record it. You know, we need the ratings. DVR it. What do you even call that anymore? Is it TiVo? Is it DVR? Is it record? I don't know. What do you think it is?
I think it's just recorded.
Record it. All right.
Universal,
So
right?
just go look for it. It says, you know, Behind the Law with Justin Clark on there, and just hit record. You know, in fact, record series. It'll record it every week for you. We need those ratings. 321-282-1055. Hello, Allie Mack. How are you?
Good morning.
Good to see you again.
Nice to see you too.
How was the Chinese food last night?
It was fantastic.
So you made Chinese food at home? Is that what I heard?
I did.
You don't hear that very often. What was it?
I did
Sesame
Chinese
something.
fried rice.
Okay. That sounds pretty
It
good.
was very good, and we have leftovers, which we love. So it's a group thing. So every time we do that, me and my husband cook. I love it.
The beautiful Brianna is behind the scenes, making sure we're live on all these social media platforms at ATTY Justin Clark on Instagram or Behind the Law Radio, whatever, I don't know. Chase Bluefield is also here pushing the buttons on the other side of these screens. Normally you'd say on the other side of the glass, but we're kind of separated just by screens, and he doesn't have a microphone in front of him. Say, what do you mean you tell him? You said hello?
Yes, just tell him I said hi.
All right, Chase says hello, everyone. So I promise he's thinking about you. Very special guest today, and it's special to me as well because he happens to be a dear friend of mine who I don't get to see very often. And he's really a world-renowned economic development expert. His name is John Boyd, principal of the Boyd Company. This guy's been on every single radio and TV show that you've ever heard of across the nation, right?
Well, it's great to be on this one, Justin.
Welcome, buddy. Good to see you. I know you're
Thanks for
super
having me.
nervous coming on Behind the Law. You know, I can only imagine. So what was the most nervous you've ever been when you've been interviewed? I see you on all sorts of national TV shows and everything. The most nerve-wracking for you?
It's funny, Justin. I'm from New Jersey. In New
Shut-
Jersey,
get out of here.
You know, Joe Piscopo is up there with Springsteen and Thomas Edison.
That's right.
So doing Joe Piscopo's show, it was special to me. You tell people that in different parts of the country, they don't believe you, but
Right.
But that was a special show that I did. I mean, all the Fox shows are always great too. But
So, okay, economic development expert. And what I think we really want to talk about today is we feel like in Orlando, who would have ever thought we'd end up in Orlando? I'm not from here, you know? I just sort of happened to arrive here one day to a town that was okay. I mean, when I got here, maybe 2007, it was pretty cool. But I just thought Orlando was Disney World. I thought that's all we had. Orlando's turned into like a pretty cool town, believe it or not, with like great restaurants and the Dr. Phillips Center and professional sports. It's actually a really cool town. And what you do is you go around and tell businesses, sort of big businesses, where to relocate. I mean, that's essentially what you guys do, right?
right, we counsel major U.S. and overseas corporations where to locate their plants and their offices and their warehouses throughout North America. Clients of ours include Boeing, Chevron, and we're very active in South Florida and in the state of Florida. Pratt & Whitney is a major client of ours. Royal Caribbean Cruises is a client of ours. And Florida is booming. I mean, there's really no part of the Sunshine State today that's not thriving and attracting new industry.
So we here in Florida, we always knew that there was a huge population boom here in Florida, but we actually heard when the real estate collapse happened in 2008, 9, 10, really the economic collapse, I guess you would say, that maybe we're not getting as many new people as we once did. Is that true, or is it really coming back?
The in-migration trends of intellectual capital and in business and in corporate investment in businesses is just astronomical. I mean, Florida continues to lead the nation in job growth and new construction activity. And it's because it's no accident that this is the case. I mean, it's because of pro-growth, pro-business, tax-cutting policies that are happening here in Florida.
How do you think a state unit, when you see an NBA star or whatever, they're like, well, they can go to the Rockets or they can go to the Lakers, but there's no state income tax in Texas. So might as well go to the Rockets. You can even give them a discount, right? How does state income tax affect where a business might go?
a personal income tax is a major site selection driver today. Companies are really in a battle to attract and retain the best talent from around the globe. So for companies with operations here in Florida, executives and highly skilled information technology workers can have an incentive to live here and to work here and to start businesses here. I mean, Florida really is in a position to export its ideas to other states, and other states can learn a lot from what Florida does properly, especially states like Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey, which are losing thousands of people each year because of high taxes and excessive spending, and businesses that are leaving those high-cost, high-tax markets.
And how does your company determine where, like, say I have a Fortune 500 company and my company comes to you because we want to kind of set roots and establish ourselves in a state. How is it that you would give me, how do you determine where my company should go? Say it's a technology company.
Right. Site selection is both a science and an art. The science is the quantitative analysis, measuring taxes, measuring regulations, measuring incentives in one state versus another. The artistry, if you will, involves the qualitative aspects of where businesses should be. Things like talent and infrastructure and the attitudes of state and federal or state officials. Are they pro-growth politicians that want to make business be streamlined, for example? These are all things that we look at for our projects.
What do you think, and I'm not asking for your political affiliation by any means, but I mean, we all know that we have a new president over the last couple of years, and I think there's no doubt the economy is better than it was. Sure. You can say it was Obama or Trump, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, but how do you think a Trump-led White House is affecting the American economy now?
Well, look, we have the lowest unemployment rate in history today, under 4%. We added over 300,000 manufacturing jobs in the last year. Trump has done some very solid things for the economy, lowering the corporate tax rate from 35 to 21% to make the U.S. more competitive on a global stage. He's eliminated onerous and expensive environmental regulations that advanced manufacturers appreciate. He's instituted an America First posture on the nation's $7 trillion federal procurement market. All of that is creating new momentum for manufacturers to build products here in the U.S. versus China or Mexico.
And how do you see it going? I know you're no prognosticator, but how do you see the economy in the next, say, 2 or 3 years?
We're very optimistic on the economy. Look at the stock market. I mean, this is an administration that really is in sync with the needs of investors and corporate decision makers.
We're talking to John Boyd, principal of the Boyd Company in Princeton. Princeton, right? You guys are
Princeton,
from
New
New Jersey. Good friend of mine. We were very lucky to have him. He's a nationally known figure when it comes to economic development. He goes around and really helps companies, big major corporations, figure out where to relocate or where to expand. And speaking of expansion, I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Amazon. There's this new company, you guys might have heard of it, Amazon. You know, it sort of changed the way we buy things in America. And it's no secret they're looking for a second headquarters, right?
Yes.
So what is this? Is this like a full-blown second corporate office, or what is this thing?
This is the biggest project in the history of economic development.
Wow.
50,000 jobs with an average salary of $100,000, 8 million square feet of new office space, and just the cachet of attracting a company as revolutionary as Amazon has made this project really dominate the 24-hour business news cycle. Very exciting project.
And what cities are still left in the running?
So there's 238 cities applied for the second headquarters. Amazon came out with a short list several months ago, 20 cities, one of which is Miami/South Florida. I happen to think South Florida would be a very smart choice for Amazon's second headquarters.
Gotcha. So what sort of economic impact would an Amazon HQ2 coming to your city have? Any idea?
It'd be a transformative project.
So
this is
many
a once,
jobs, too.
Right. I mean, look at the impact, and you think about the Miami-Dade County, for example. The average salary there is $48,000 a year. So you think about the upward trajectory of wages by attracting this project. The impact on the housing market would be terrific. Retail, tourism, all of those things.
Unbelievable. So we're talking to John Boyd, principal of the Boyd Company. We're going to get really into Central Florida on the other side of this break. Let's figure out what businesses would really be attracted to Central Florida and why Central Florida is a great place for business growth. It's Justin Clark and Allie Mack, Behind the Law, ESPN Radio.
So for cities, is there something that cities can actually do to attract?
Yes.
New business owner, I think we should talk about that.
Go ahead, yeah,
That'd be
yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, invest in workforce training. Incentives are critical.
Well, we're live, so.
Hi, guys.
I think the governor's race is interesting also.
Yeah, that's definitely on
This
the list.
idea
Yeah.
of God forbid, going in the wrong direction,
Right.
reversing a lot of the
Right,
pro-business things that Rick Scott has done. I think is an interesting, timely talking point.
absolutely.
Cool.
So we'll do 4 10-minute segments just like that. And we'll take a little break in between.
Are we still doing the last segment with that music coming in?
Oh yeah, Chase.
Oh yeah, I know that would do the last segment at least.
Who is that? What song is it?
With the song?
Yeah.
Yes.
Careless Whisper.
Careless Whisper.
George Michael.
Hashtag. We should hashtag.
A tragic figure.
yeah,
he was.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Did you watch the documentary?
Don't
It's a
think I've
big,
seen it.
it's a big Showtime documentary on his life.
It's like the only one I haven't seen. I feel like I've seen every
They
documentary.
can make anything interesting.
Yeah, I
They
think
can
so,
really
yeah.
make anyone just captivating. Like,
Mhm.
Hashtag Careless Whisper.
I like to lead in the stroke song you have.
Yeah. I've used that for a while. That's a law school days thing.
Yeah. Right, 2001. That album was the sound of 2001. wasn't
Uh-huh.
it?
It very much reminds me of law school.
So, do you live here? South Florida.
I live in New Jersey primarily. I have a place in South Florida.
Oh, cool.
He tries to get back to New Jersey as little as possible these days, it seems.
I mean, listen, I love Jersey. I have a lot of great friends there, but
South
for me, I
Florida's-
just love being in
South Florida's nice.
Yeah.
I love it there. And I sort of kind of grew up there. My family always had a house there growing up, so.
You drove up just for the show?
I did, yeah.
Nice.
Well, it's great to see him. It's
Yeah.
a great excuse to see Justin.
Very cool. How long, well, from where do you guys know? College
From
or
law
from-
school, yeah. 2002 or something like that, right? 2001?
2001.
All right, you ready?
Yep. Here we go. 3, 2. Oh, hold on. That's my
3, 2, 3.
That's my fault.
2.
I hadn't have it paused up. All right, here we go.
It's his first day.
Yep, exactly. Here we go. 3, 2.
I'm feeling it, Chase. Chase, you're doing a good job today, big boy. And I would be remiss
I like
if I didn't say happy Labor Day weekend to you. Hope you have fantastic plans, and thank you for spending some of your weekend here with us on Behind the Law, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN 580. It's Allie Mack, it's Justin Clark, Chase Bluefield pushing the buttons, and the beautiful Brianna behind the scenes, making sure we look somewhat reasonably decent looking on social media. Right? I mean, it's hard with me. I'm not giving her a great base to start with. You know what I'm saying? So,
Thanks for radio.
Yeah. 321-282-1055. Plenty of information about the law firm on the website, youhavepower.com. Do not forget to watch or record the TV show. It comes on here in about, 30 minutes on Central Florida's 27 WRDQ. If you're not at home, just record it. It's easy. And you'll see Justin Clark and Allie Mack, and they really, what I hear, they prefer to see you, Allie Mack, as
Do
opposed
they?
to me, but that's
Oh.
fine. I can take some hits, it's fine. A very special guest, good friend of mine, he's the principal of the Boyd Company, his name is John Boyd, they're based out of Princeton, New Jersey. He's on every national show talking about where businesses should relocate because he's an economic development expert. And we're going to talk about Orlando in a minute, but let's circle back to Amazon HQ2 for a minute, because Allie Mack, I know you had some questions during the break for John, so go ahead.
So how can a city make themselves more appeasing to these companies to come in and want to build these massive, companies?
That's a great question. And economic development is so competitive today. Right? We call it the second war between the states. And there are a number of things that states and cities can do to attract industry. The first is to invest in workforce training. We live in a skills-based economy. So workforce training, vocational training, investing in things like artificial intelligence and computer science programs is critical given the direction of our economy towards robotics. Also investing in infrastructure. Infrastructure is a key site selection driver today. So I would identify those as two major factors. The other thing that cities can do is not raise taxes. Okay, there's a common denominator among cities and states that are attracting industry today, and it's to keep taxes low. That's one of the reasons why Florida is a leader in job creation versus states like Massachusetts and New Jersey and New York, which just have reckless, out of control taxing and spending.
So that's why Amazon should come to Orlando, right?
Well, I think Orlando's out of the running, if I'm not mistaken, unfortunately.
But Orlando and the super region here in Central Florida would benefit dramatically should South Florida win the battle for HQ2. And for a number of reasons. It'll obviously create enormous new tax revenue for the state coffers. But also, Orlando is uniquely linked to South Florida as the Brightline comes on stream. In 2021, you'll have high-speed rail connecting Orlando to Miami, which is a game changer.
And we need to get back, don't let me forget to get back to that, but I have to ask this question too, because when I think site selection, I also think like World Cup site selection, and we know how much fraud went into that in the past. It was this whole, let's see who can grease whoever's pockets, and then we're going to go to your city. How does Amazon, or how do these local government or state governments avoid a bunch of fraud in this thing too?
That's a great question. Given the high-profile nature of HQ2, it's really provided a platform for a lot of public advocacy groups, many of which are really focused on this transparency issue and looking and examining about incentives and the appropriateness of awarding such big incentives to the 5th largest company in the U.S. today, which is Amazon. That's another argument that folks have. What I will tell you is that in 2018, incentives are what we term a necessary evil, and cities and states need to offer incentives to be competitive.
All right, let's talk about this rail again, because here in Orlando we have a thing called Sunrail now. It's sort of a local, amongst our little cities here, daily sort of route. But this Brightline is something totally different, and I know you know quite a bit about that. And to be honest with you, most people in Orlando still don't even know if it's actually coming or not. Right. We hear yes, then we hear no. We don't even know if it's going to happen. Is it happening?
Yeah, well, yesterday was a big day for Orlando. $700 million of bonds went through yesterday, which is very significant. So Brightline will happen. It's like standing in front of the ocean and trying to stop the waves from coming in.
Right.
High-speed public transportation is a critical site selection driver. Florida has been behind the curve on that. That's beginning to change. The Brightline experience in South Florida connecting to Miami to West Palm has been a big success. Ultimately, that's going to extend to Orlando. And that's going to be great for businesses that want to be linked to all the colleges and universities from South Florida into the Central Florida, and the labor market, which will have new recruiting possibilities.
When is it supposed to come online?
To Orlando,
yeah.
2021.
So is it already down in South Florida?
It is.
Okay, so it's already started to West Palm. See, did you know this, Ally Mac?
Yeah.
You already knew it was going.
Because my husband.
Oh, okay.
But
He's an architect.
Yeah, so when we saw it yesterday pass through, he goes, yes!
So as of right now, the Brightline, or whatever it's called, goes from Miami to West Palm.
Yes.
And that's it. It ends there.
Yes.
But now they're going to start extending it all the way to here?
To Orlando, yes.
Okay.
And ultimately, the plan is to extend it to Tampa, which would be a bit further out. But it's in step with what we're seeing nationally. The big move in transportation is to public transit.
Right, absolutely. What is a general cost? You might not know this for a ticket from, say, Miami to West Palm.
It's very affordable. It's about $15.
Really? So I imagine Miami to Orlando maybe $100 or something. It's probably going to be an affordable way to go. And if you've ever driven from Miami to Orlando, you could be sitting in traffic the entire way sometimes. This is a way to avoid traffic too,
Absolutely.
And I think this is great for the Miami folks also, because they come up here to Disney all the time, And it's one of these flights that's so short, it's annoying,
Right.
but the drive's long enough to where you're annoyed too. It's absolutely perfect for a train.
I agree.
And how fast, this thing goes fast, right?
It is.
So unbelievable. I didn't even know this was official.
It's one of the most exciting developments in public transportation. And Amazon is a company that pays close attention to transit issues. So I think one of the things that has elevated South Florida's attractiveness to Amazon is this idea of the Brightline, and ultimately it'll benefit Central Florida.
I think it's going to go all the way to Lake Nona.
Okay, is that right? Gotcha.
From Lake Nona, and
Right.
of course they're also going to take it out west. But
When large corporations are thinking about relocating to Central Florida, do they think in terms of Orlando, or do they think in terms of this whole corridor, like the Tampa, Orlando, even Jacksonville corridor?
We term it the super region, if you will, and that's the Central Florida super region, which is one of the strongest areas of our nation's economy. And you look at the aerospace industry, which is thriving here. A lot of national and international drivers are promoting the reshoring of aerospace production here in the U.S. South Florida fits nicely into that context. Also, banking and financial services. Orlando has a thriving financial services industry, and you know, we see that those positive indicators continuing because of the low-cost profile, because of the skill sets here, and the high in-migration trends of smart people leaving New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New York to live in low-cost Florida.
What are some of the other positives that you guys have seen about Central Florida now, currently? Can you think of anything in particular?
One of the under-the-radar screen drivers for companies here to Florida, above and beyond the lack of a personal income tax, which is great,
Right.
is the prepaid tuition option.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
This is a nation that it's in a tuition crisis. So a very powerful arrow in the quiver of HR directors encouraging transferees to leave Connecticut or New Jersey is the idea that you can declare residency in Florida. Not only will you not pay a personal income tax, you can also lock in a tuition rate for your kids.
So people in Florida just think that this Florida prepaid thing is just natural and it happens everywhere. We're very, very, just think it's normal. You know what I mean? So this is actually an incentive, and a lot of states don't do that. So, I mean, if you're listening and you're wondering whether you should, join this prepaid thing, John Boyd from the Boyd Company is telling us this is not only a good thing, it's incentive for big corporations to bring their corporations here to Florida.
Absolutely. And here's another under-the-radar screen benefit of all this, is that just like Florida attracts a lot of smart entrepreneurs and a lot of smart executives, a lot of the nation's top academic professionals, presidents of major colleges, want to work here in Florida. So you look at Florida Atlantic University, or the University of North Florida, or Gulf Coast University. I mean, there's a number of very aggressive public schools here in Florida, public colleges, that aggressively market themselves in the Northeast to attract students, to attract wealthy donors, etc.
What are some of the negatives? And we don't mind, we're not going to be offended. Can you think of some negatives about Central Florida?
I think it's the biggest, the public school system, which I think it tends to be an overrated concern. I can tell you that in over 40 years of our business, not once has public schools been the game-changing factor that influenced where a company goes or doesn't go.
So the public school systems here aren't so good, and yeah,
they're getting better. Florida public schools are improving.
And I mean, we agree with you. I mean, we see it. We have kids. There's no doubt about it. There's some counties that are better than others, but I can tell you that there are some counties that just aren't that good. And we don't pay our teachers that much here either. I mean, you know what I do for a living. I meet with families all the time, people who are retiring, and they come in, and they're like, I have a pension from the New York school system. That doesn't exist here hardly at all. You know what I mean? They get very little. We're underpaid teacher-wise, for sure. We're talking to John Boyd, principal of the Boyd Company. He's an economic development expert. We're going to talk about the governor's race in Florida here coming up. More just ahead. My name is Justin Clark. That is Allie Mack. It's Behind the Law on ESPN 580.
I want to ask you if the parks are a deterrent for companies to come here. Because all the parks are developing. Is that a deterrent for them, or is
Office
that
parks
something
or-
more of a
No, like
the Disney parks?
like Disney.
Parks? More of a deterrent. So I'll ask you about
Actually,
that segment.
That's actually a good theme, actually.
Yeah.
This idea of the role that tourism
Right.
plays with the Visit Florida Fund. I don't know if you've covered that at all.
No, let's do it.
But we always term, tourism and economic development are indivisible. That's a good theme for Central Florida.
All right.
Corporate training events, etc., things like that.
What was the last song that you guys played?
I'm not sure.
Bangs.
We missed it.
You couldn't hear it?
We missed it.
Uh,
Well, we barely heard it. What is that?
What, someone just asked that question? Or?
No, I
Oh,
was wondering because we could
you
barely
could hear it through
I
there?
was like, I wonder what it is. I don't know. I'm not plugged in as far as like with questions.
You don't like headphones, huh?
I don't mind it. I forgot it. I'm used to the Daily Show.
Yeah.
For a second, we were like, I'm used to the Daily Show. I'm like, wait, you guys have done the Daily Show?
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
I thought the same thing for a
Yeah.
second there.
It's like we got a guy who's been on Fox Business and Joe Piscopo show. He's like, oh, you guys been on Daily Show? It's like, okay, you guys just do bigger shows.
The Piscopo thing really resonated with
So
Chase.
does he have is it a podcast that he does up there? What is his show?
It's a morning show. It's a radio show.
Is it, what state, what is it on?
New York. It's
Okay.
at 9:70 a.m.
Okay. Has he been doing it for years?
He kind of recalibrated his image. Now he's doing more topical.
Right.
But you remember back in the day, he
Oh,
was
yeah.
the biggest
Absolutely.
comedian in the
Yeah.
Saturday Night Live. And
Of course. What did you guys thought? What did he ask you about?
Amazon.
Okay.
Newark made the top 20 list. I was a big advocate of his. He flirted with running for governor.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. Why not, right?
It only raises
Look
your
what we have
profile.
now. I mean, you kidding
Even
me?
if you lose.
I also want to do a little plug on our new Facebook page.
Sure.
Justin.
Do it.
You see your husband's an architect? Like, what types of projects?
He does hotels. He used to do hospitals. He works for HKS.
Excellent. Very nice.
Are you here all evening? Justin, bring him to the group.
Yeah.
Round
I think he
over
wants to
there,
get
my
back.
husband over there.
What's happening tonight?
I don't know if I'm going, but there's.
I knew it.
It's Passley Road. He can't go. He turns himself
That's the
down.
Tryst Club. It's I guess a members only
Excellent.
kind
Nice.
of place downtown that a little happy hour.
Good
with,
for you.
You know, my close friends except for Justin because he doesn't think he.
That's not it.
So what do you play basketball every morning?
No, a couple times a week.
You can't
They only play Wednesday and Friday, so that's it.
I gotta start doing that.
I know, man. It's,
My exercise
I
is walking
took a-
back and forth to the Rusty Hook.
yeah, right. Are you in that new? Well, it's probably not even new enough. Are you in the building that's like right in front of the Rusty Hook? That new kind of tall building?
No, I'm in the. This is being broadcast.
Yeah, oh yeah.
We're live.
I need my address out.
I know.
Yeah,
We'll address that later.
Behind the scenes, we'll do
Yeah.
another behind
Okay.
the scenes.
Yeah, there
We're
we
doing
go.
some hot work.
Alright,
Okay.
we
Alright,
gotta stop
yeah.
talking, guys.
There used to be a little Italian restaurant right on that strip right there we would walk to. I don't know if it's still there. I don't know. Is it that Italian deli still down there?
Max's
That's
Cafe.
it. Yeah,
That's right.
Oh, yeah,
That's right next to Publix. I like it there. Great
Yeah.
deal Parmesan.
exactly.
How long has it been since you've been there?
So my
Years?
girlfriend in law school and after law school, her grandparents had a place right there, and so but it's been 7 to 8 years.
I know that girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alright.
You ready?
Ready? Alright.
What did I say we were going to talk about next? Governor's race.
Governor's race, yeah.
And then you had
And then
something.
I know, with the
What
theme
is- what
park-
do you
with
have?
The theme parks.
Oh yeah, and then we're going to definitely do tourism.
Alright, here we go. 3, 2.
That's right, it is me, Justin Clark. Thank you for spending some of your Labor Day holiday here with us on Behind the Law. If you have any questions whatsoever, 321-282-1055. The website, youhavepower.com. Allie Mack is here.
Hello,
How are
Justin.
you?
I'm good.
Brianna is behind the scenes making sure we're on social media. Please follow us at.
We are at Behind the Law Radio.
Okay.
That's our new Facebook page.
Good deal.
We have all contest information, any updates, and also guest information as well.
Chase Bluefield is pushing the buttons, making sure we don't curse on the air, answering your complaint calls about us as well. And he doesn't have a microphone, but he waved at you and said hello. He's thinking about you, and we're also wishing you a happy weekend. Watch the TV show here in about 20 minutes on Central Florida's 27 WRDQ. It's Behind the Law on television. You can also watch the show live throughout the week on Facebook at Behind the Law Radio. So every weekday about 4 p.m., right?
4 p.m.
At
every
4 p.m. So you can watch us live, ask questions right there as well. And other ways to interact, give us a call, 321-282-1055. We have a very special guest today. We're lucky to have him. He's an economic development expert and a principal at the Boyd Company based out of Princeton, New Jersey, and happens to be a good friend of mine as well, John Boyd. John, how are you, sir?
It's great to see you, Justin.
Thank you for being here. So before the break, we were talking about Amazon HQ2 and where that's going to go. And what you really do for a living is you advise big corporations on where to relocate or where to expand, right? That's what you guys do essentially. I know it's more complex than that, but that's the understandable way to say what you do.
Right. We counsel major corporations where to build new factories, where to build new offices, where to expand relocate their operations.
Is there what's like too small of a company that's like, I don't know, it might be a little too small for us, or is there anything that's too large for you?
If you have any projects, it's another way. 90% of our work is with Fortune 500 companies. Occasionally we do projects for smaller companies. A big part of our business today, quite frankly, is working with developers, major commercial real estate developers, determining areas where they should be investing, where they should be building new brick and mortar facilities, primarily mixed use facilities.
Right.
That's a big growth avenue for our business. Mixed use is really the really hot area of real estate today.
So we just got done with the primary election here in Florida, as you probably know, and it was really kind of a surprise on both the Republican and Democrat side. Although DeSantis on the Republican side had some momentum going in, I think most people thought Putnam and that establishment was probably going to win the Republican nomination, but DeSantis came in and killed him. And then on the other side, wow, what a surprise. I mean, an absolute shocking surprise with Gillum. And what do you think? I mean, what could this election really mean to the future financial growth of this state?
Look, our clients would view a Gillum election as troublesome. Okay, Florida is on a roll today because it's cutting taxes, it's cutting regulations. Any signal that we're going to revert back to the old tax and spend ways would be bad for Florida's economy. The idea that Gillum was endorsed by Bernie Sanders gives pause to a lot of job creators here in the state. I mean, most of our clients, quite frankly, could look at a Gwen Graham, for example, more of a moderate. That really wouldn't tip the needle one way or the other. But I think there is some concern about what a Gillum election would mean for the state of Florida. Our clients are also looking at the senatorial election. I mean, from a business attraction standpoint, Rick Scott has been a terrific governor. I think he'd be a terrific voice in the Senate, especially on issues related to aerospace and defense contracting.
So part of what you do when you're judged by actually giving your clients this data, and then they actually move there and things go terribly, they might call you and say, yeah, that wasn't the best advice. So you have to do your homework to make sure you're giving them the right advice. And I imagine part of your homework is you have to go to these states or these localities and actually meet with the local politicians. Is that not right?
We do. I mean, in the old days, when my dad started this business, a mayor or a county commissioner would be part of the site selection process. Today, the role of economic development has gone all the way up the political ladder. So today I'll meet with a congressional delegation, I'll meet with a senator or a governor's office, not just to marshal incentives, but to create a relationship between the company and the elected officials that really will kind of pave the way, pave the climate for how the economy is. Look, people ask us all the time, what's changed in site selection over the years? The biggest change is the role that politics plays. Not just for incentives, but for infrastructure spending and workforce training grants and all of those things.
Regarding site selection in the state of Florida, specifically in Orlando, is the theme parks going to be a deterrent for these big companies coming in, or they're going to be more an incentive?
It's a big plus for two major reasons. The first plus is because of the transferability of skill sets. Customer service skill sets are a key part of our labor market, especially for jobs in the call center industry. Call centers, by the way, are coming back to the U.S. just like manufacturing is coming back to the U.S. Call centers are coming back to the U.S. Central Florida is well positioned to attract a lot of these projects because of the transferability of skill sets from the amusement parks, from the hospitality infrastructure. These folks can work in a call center environment. So that's the first major plus. The second area where Central Florida's and the amusement industry here benefits the region's industry attraction efforts is the robust travel industry, where you have corporate training events where companies want to do corporate outings. So the hospitality infrastructure, hotel rooms, transportation, amusements and cultural amenities, entertainment, all of that makes this an attractive office market.
We might have very long lines here at the Orlando International Airport, and we do. I don't know what's going on there. But what I found is because of all the tourism we have here, you can get almost anywhere, direct and quick. Do airports have any sort of say-so in where you recommend businesses to relocate?
Absolutely. I mean, Orlando is uniquely linked to the global marketplace because of its premier airport infrastructure. I mean, nonstop direct flights to major global markets. That's critical for the types of projects that Orlando is competing for right now. namely corporate headquarters, okay, and major aerospace companies with operations in Europe. Those projects place a premium upon major airports. That's a strong suit for Orlando.
We used to have a lot of NASA going on here, as you know, and a lot of what I did in the beginning of my career was help people through foreclosure. When 2008 hit, literally Brevard County almost fell off the map. It was just so hard hit. NASA went away. It was just terrible over there. Literally, it was a mass exodus. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. We went from having NASA to, like, literally it fell off the map over there. But now it's coming back. And you see Tesla over there. You see all sorts of crazy things going on in Brevard County and the aerospace space.
Like Blue Origin,
Yeah, it's
Bezos
unbelievable.
operation.
What do you see going on over there in Brevard County, and what do you see happening next there?
Well, first, I mean, this is driven by this national trend of reshoring, where aerospace companies are finding it more costly to build planes and parts in China and in Mexico. So these projects are coming back to the U.S. The second question becomes, where are they going to go? And the common denominator among markets attracting these aerospace production projects are right-to-work status, a skilled workforce, and Brevard County fits nicely into that. You look at the Florida Technology Institute, which is world-renowned for aerospace industry training. You look at the military presence there, which is a key site selection driver for the aerospace industry. And our firm has been very active in the aerospace industry. Boeing is a client of ours, Pratt & Whitney is a client of ours, and we've been spending a lot of time on the Space Coast in recent months on behalf of our clients, looking to expand there. That's great news for Florida.
So we hear rumors all the time about a certain city that was always called the second city or whatever. I think you were there recently. They have great thick pizza, okay? I won't even say the name of it. And we hear about a terrible crime rate there. It's Chicago. I'm talking about Chicago. So
I was at Gibson's, Justin. That's one of your spots.
So I don't know if this is a media-driven thing, or it seems like there's a lot of bad things going on there. Does crime rate have any sort of impact on where you advise your clients to move?
It's something that we look at. Crime is an issue in Chicago. Chicago's biggest problem is the unfunded pension liabilities. I mean, it's a house of cards, their fiscal system. And companies are very reluctant to put operations there. That said, Rahm Emanuel, he's a progressive on a number of issues, but he understands economic development. And he has one of the strongest incentive programs in the nation. And one of the reasons why you're seeing this recent successes he's had in attracting corporate headquarters is not because of the pro-business tenor of Chicago, but because of Chicago's enormous incentives and its labor force.
I'm very interested in how businesses convince local governments to give them tax dollars to relocate to their cities. And we're going to talk about that in one segment ahead. We're with John Boyd. He's principal of the Boyd Company and economic development expert. And you're listening to Behind the Law on ESPN 580.
Anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, what else we need to have? 10 more minutes.
I'm sort of running out of things to say. If you record this, you can watch it if you have trouble falling asleep later.
No, this is. I think this is interesting.
Well, it has to do a lot with Florida.
Yeah,
So I'm sure
I mean,
that a lot of
Florida's
people
sort of
I love
want to know
Florida.
business owners and just people in general that live here.
I thought you were also going to mention the big engineering firms all the way over in Melbourne, how like you have Harrison, Intersil,
Of course. Oh, yeah.
Is
Yeah.
Boeing
All
still
those
there?
suppliers, which are
Right.
critical. Boeing's there.
Boeing's in too.
They're expanding there. I mean, Boeing is bringing in their avionics in-house.
Oh, really?
They contracted out to McDonnell Douglas.
Yeah.
So the idea that they're bringing that in-house is another opportunity for the Space Coast.
What you were saying, Justin, about like the mass exodus after NASA,
Yeah.
like when NASA got like, what was it officially, like defunded, or just they said they were going to stop taking care of it, but like all the engineering firms were like contemplating moving out, and it's
Right.
like, oh, there goes Melbourne's economy, pretty much like was about to go to crap
true.
just because of it.
We did a lot of short sales on properties in Brevard County, that's for sure. People are getting the hell out.
So you also represent Visa International.
Visa International.
Hewlett Packard, J.P. Morgan Chase.
It's a who's who of
Caribbean.
American economy.
Banking's a big part of our business. And that's one of the more mobile sectors of the economy today. Banks are leaving New York and Chicago for secondary markets. Bank of New York just left
New York.
3,000 jobs.
Really?
Here for Orlando.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a big project.
I didn't know that.
J.P. Morgan's taking thousands of jobs out of Manhattan to Jacksonville and Tampa.
Wow.
There's different mortgage companies and bank companies that I've been meeting here lately that are, I guess, opening up another office here, which they already have an office in New York, and
Yes.
all that, but they are opening up over here too.
Yes.
which is Orlando's the hot market right now.
It is. I mean, growing by 10% a year. I mean, the in-migration trends just.
Can you tell us some of the companies that might be moving here? Can you kind of give us a little?
The two hottest sectors are aerospace, banking and finance, and also distribution. I mean, same-day delivery. Warehouses tend to be less interesting to people, but these are nonetheless projects that employ hundreds of people and generate enormous amounts of tax revenue. So yeah, we see more opportunities for distribution centers also.
Yeah, I saw Amazon just opened up a new distribution plant in Orlando, and Walmart opened in Cocoa, I think now.
Right.
They have one, like it's a massive one too.
Distribution and Coke for Walmart?
Yeah, I think it's a distribution.
Like when you order online, you mean, type of thing?
Same-day delivery.
Yeah.
Like, no, guys, I'm fine. Thank you.
I was trying to make the joke of like Brianna is so excited right now, she's couldn't contain
Choking
herself.
up.
Same day delivery? You gotta be
What?
kidding me.
Trying to get my
Make it back
groceries,
down
yeah,
to
that's
South
what's
Florida.
happening.
Do it, yeah. I'll come visit you soon for sure.
Literally every
That's
2 weeks,
fun.
Amazon drops all my
Absolutely.
staples off.
Where's your next
No,
trip?
they do.
When are you leaving
Literally, I
again?
know.
I don't know, man. I have to be back in
I'm
Chicago.
a Prime
actually, in
member,
couple
it's
weeks.
free.
I
Like,
gotta
what
go
am I
home too.
supposed
I
to
gotta.
do?
Yeah, I mean it's
Like,
Fam.
it's so worth it.
I don't buy
And so
a lot
what
of stuff
airline do
from
you
Prime,
fly
but
now?
it's like I like to have that there
Started
just
doing
in case.
Frontier.
Like,
I
so I'll
don't
buy
know.
something like either
It
like
flies
once or
direct
twice a
out of
month.
Palm Beach
Oh.
to
No.
Mercer County, which
Oh,
is 10
yeah.
minutes from my house.
I didn't see you as a Frontier guy, but it's just so convenient, I guess.
Mainly
Yeah.
dry goods, and then I'll
They
go to
discontinued
the store for
the
like
flights to
3 weeks,
Fort
my
Lauderdale,
veggies
but
Oh,
it's
okay.
supposedly going to start up
because
again.
I want to look at it.
Winter, hopefully it does.
I want to analyze
I
this
figured
I'm a big
ritual.
Delta.
But I
I'm a big
tried
Delta.
that
Yeah.
Waybrand. I'm gonna
But you
tell
were always
Waybrand,
obviously,
and they give you some
Married, so I can't
Marriott is
remember.
my big thing.
Like,
No, but
instead of
so
getting
the
a
airline
whole
in Newark was
bag
always
of onions, you
Continental.
have one
Then they
onion
merged
because the
with
rest of it
United,
only calls
was
for
it?
one.
Well, it was
One
Northwest,
stem of
Yeah.
like
and then
the
Continental got
Chinese
Right,
together,
right.
and then
onion.
Delta.
Like you literally get
Oh.
like one stem.
So they're all
a bag
Delta
of
then.
rice like this.
Oh, okay.
So and
But
it
you were a
comes out to
Continental
like
guy before, weren't you?
$9.25
At one point I was.
Sure.
That's so cool.
Well,
Yeah.
initially it was
Takes
the
25
Northwest.
minutes to
That was the big
That was
thing.
your thing, okay.
Minneapolis and Newark.
And I was like obsessed.
We love it.
Oh really?
And then she was like, it's only 3 months, that's it. You're on your own. I was like, okay, fine.
So Frontier. I don't know if I've ever been on Frontier.
I'm worried about
If you
I'll
fly to
leave
Chicago,
getting
I'll leave into spirits
negative
sometimes.
publicity
Oh, yeah?
because I guess like a
Chicago
whole bunch
and
of
United.
warehouse workers have been kind of like shedding light on like the work conditions and all that
Wow.
at their distribution
Spirit
plants.
gets a
It's like,
horrible
oh,
rap.
this be a thing now.
The fares are just
Yeah.
so cheap.
just have to walk and chew on it.
I know, yeah, it's unbelievable.
Pick your battles in life.
Yeah.
Like there's
Come on.
some battles on your shoes and there's other
Walmart
ones.
the same way. It's like,
That's
you know
one
what?
of them.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of them.
All right.
Ready?
But Chick-fil-A.
All right. Oh yeah, Chick-fil-A.
I am not. You can still go. Thank you. What guy on your own?
Mm-hmm.
Is this our last segment?
Yep.
Yeah.
Flies by when you have John Boyd on the show.
Flies.
Ready?
Yep.
3, 2.
Now back to Behind the Law with Justin Clark, right here on ESPN 580 Orlando.
There it is. There it is. I love it, Chase. Mm-mm.
Weekend time.
Chase Bluefield playing some tunes for you guys. It's Justin Clark with you, Allie Mack as well. It's Behind the Law on ESPN 580. One more segment ahead. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your weekend, a great day off tomorrow. We're talking to John Boyd, a very good friend of mine. We lived in Boston together for a while. I get to see him once a year or so. He's the principal of the Boyd Company, right? This is the preeminent economic development expert, really, in America, for sure. I mean, you do your research on him, you'll find out. I mean, they've been on every single TV show talking about where companies should go, especially this Amazon HQ2. And I promise we're going to focus on Central Florida through most of this segment, but a couple questions I have first. Number one, why wouldn't every big corporation just like pack up and move to the middle of Nebraska where it's cheap living, cheap labor? Why wouldn't we just send everyone to Nebraska? No offense to Nebraska, I'm just, you know what I'm
First
trying
of
to
all,
say.
thanks for starting that segment off with that glowing. I've been caught far worse things in my life than the nation's preeminent
Oh, yeah.
economic development
Good.
authority.
All right.
Look, we talked about this earlier. Site selection is a science and an art. You mentioned Nebraska. Obviously, a lot of companies are going to Nebraska because of its low-cost profile. Renewable energy is a big site selection driver for states like Iowa and Nebraska. But at the end of the day, most of our projects, they come down to this idea of talent. Where can companies hire and recruit the best talent to live and work? In some cities around the country, are uniquely able to do that because of certain livability advantages.
Right.
The Orlando region is one of those markets, given the premier state business climate, the lack of a personal income tax, the prepaid tuition program, and all of the lifestyle advantages of living in Florida, living in Central Florida.
So another question, my clients ask me this all the time, and you know, they are from New York or from Boston or wherever, and they moved to Florida 20 years ago, and now they're called halfbacks. They want to go halfway back. It's this area of western North Carolina, northern Georgia, Tennessee, you know, that circle right there where everyone's still nice. It's, hey, how y'all doing? You know, cheap living. What's going on in that region there? We call them halfbacks. They're going halfway back. Western North Carolina, northern Georgia, southern Tennessee. What's going on in that area right there?
A lot of exciting development trends are happening in eastern Tennessee right now. I mean, you know this. You're a native son of one of Tennessee's favorite sons, Justin Clark. But look, those markets, the Carolinas, Tennessee, Georgia, these are states with low taxes, with right-to-work status, with low cost of living, with affordable home prices. That's very attractive today for executives and for middle-class people, quite frankly, leaving overtaxed markets like Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, and Massachusetts.
What type of incentive? So we always read about this government gave this company an incentive, or they're giving them a tax break or whatever. What incentives do governments really give to businesses to relocate there?
Well, historically, when we talk about incentives, people think about tax credits, hiring tax credits, or property tax abatements, or sales tax exemptions. The way that incentive deals are negotiated today go beyond that, and companies expect things like infrastructure spending and workforce training funding. So I always argue, if you look at all of the nonsense that governments waste money on, okay, strong incentive programs actually are a public good because it improves roads, it improves other transportation corridors, it helps train workers to find jobs that exist today. So I'm someone that does not take the anti-incentive approach. Economic development is very competitive today. We call it the second war between the states.
Right.
And strong incentive programs are a necessary part of a state's industry attraction program, especially high-cost states, like in New Jersey, for example, okay, that really relies upon incentives to make it possible for companies to make money there.
Don't take this the wrong way, but with all the congestion, the cold weather, why do companies even stay in like a New Jersey or a Massachusetts, and the taxes, a New Jersey or New York and a Mass? Why do they stay there even?
I mean, at the end of the day, that economy, the New York labor market, is really unique in its robust labor market and skill sets. The pharmaceutical industry, the banking and finance industry, the IT industry, okay, is so strong there. And it's really uniquely linked to the global marketplace. There's more nonstop flights out of that region with JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark Airport than really anywhere else in America. So because of that, because New York is really the epicenter of the world's financial system, all of that is a magnet for businesses. But let's be honest. I mean, businesses are more mobile today than ever before. Projects are getting smaller. So while companies want a brick and mortar address of a Manhattan, they want to shift as many jobs as they can to a lower cost area like Orlando.
Right.
That's one of the reasons why Bank of New York and JP Morgan are putting hundreds of jobs here in Florida, out of New York City.
Can you talk about some of the companies that are going to be moving, or maybe that you're talking to, and
Right.
kind of maybe give us a little hint of what we can expect as Floridians, as Central Florida, in the next coming.
I would expect more banking and finance projects here in Central Florida. I would expect more distribution activity in aerospace. Aerospace is red hot today, and the super region, the Orlando Central Florida region, is well primed to attract a number of high-profile projects, both major airplane manufacturers, but also suppliers.
Let's say I own a restaurant in downtown Orlando right now. Should I be expecting more workforce over the next 2 or 3 years here in Orlando or not? What do you think?
Well, hiring it for small businesses is always a challenge, but it's less of a challenge here versus other markets because of the high growth rate and the high in-migration growth rate. You also have other factors like the idea of a strong military presence here. We have spouses that are coming back that need secondary employment. So all of that helps the small business workforce argument.
I'll never forget where I was sitting, 2002, Boylston Street, Boston, Massachusetts, the Beantown Pub, right? I was in law school, and I was talking to this guy who was in law school with me, and he says,
I said, where are you from, man? He said, I'm from Orlando, Florida. And I'll never forget what I thought. I was like, what? People live there? I thought it was. I seriously thought it was just where you go for Mickey Mouse. This is what I thought of Orlando in 2002. I'll never forget the conversation. Never knowing, of course, I would live here and grow a business here and a family here and things like that. Do you think the national view of Orlando, Florida, is my view of it in 2002, or do you think the national view has changed a little bit to understand that we're actually a real city?
Sure. I mean, smart executives from coast to coast recognize Orlando. They see the exciting development activity here. And really the proof is in new brick and mortar projects. You look at the high growth rate here. The region is leading the nation in job creation. That's a big positive indicator. But also speculative development. Some of the nation's top commercial real estate developers are building new projects here, whether that be industrial parks or office parks, with the expectation that these parks will be filled not in 3 years, but in 6 months, because companies want to be here.
Do you think there's any migration still, like northern Florida? I mean, are people moving north, or is that a myth?
Well, Jacksonville is a red-hot market now. I mean, look at Macquarie just expanded along the downtown, the waterfront there. The financial services industry in Jacksonville is growing astronomically. Culturally, Jacksonville is radically different than the rest of Florida.
Right.
We associate that more. It's a military.
Southern Georgia, bro.
It is Southern Georgia. I mean, it's connected more to Atlanta, if you will, than it is to Central Florida and obviously South Florida.
And so, get back to this Brightline rail system again, because I want people to understand this. So the Brightline rail system, is it called Brightline?
Brightline.
Okay, so the Brightline rail system is coming to Orlando. They got funded with what yesterday?
The bond went through.
Okay, the bond went through yesterday. So this thing is coming, guys. Those of you, especially with families still down in Miami, and I'm sure it'll stop along the way in Palm Beach or in Fort Lauderdale or wherever, this thing is coming. And I know you've read articles about it, then you read the next article about it wasn't coming. It is happening, and we're expecting it by 2022?
2021.
2021. And how do you see that affecting our economy here locally?
I mean, public transit is the hot button issue today. This will be a game-changing advantage for Central Florida because you're not connected to this roaring engine of commerce, which is South Florida, okay? And this is a narrative playing out in high-growth areas like Atlanta and Nashville that lack public transit. This will be a great selling point versus those markets for Orlando once Brightline comes on stream.
That is John Boyd, principal of the Boyd Company. How do people reach out to you? Maybe someone has some questions for you. How can they find you?
Follow us on Twitter. Our handle is the Boyd Company.
We're lucky to have you today, buddy. You know, you're a good friend of mine, friend till the end. If you ever need me for anything, I'm always here for you. All right. Thank you so much. He came all the way up from South Florida to see us today, ladies and gentlemen. So we're lucky to have you.
It's always great seeing you, Justin.
You too, brother. Allie Mack, you did a wonderful job today.
Thank you.
The beautiful Brianna behind the scenes. Chase Bluefield making sure we push all the buttons properly, answering the complaint calls. You know, any complaint calls today, Chase?
Not yet.
Good. Sometimes they come after the show, right?
Give it time.
Well, my name is Justin Clark. This has been another edition of Behind the Law on ESPN 580. Chase, I don't know what. Should I do one little thing I need to tell you?
What's that?
I will see you right back here next Sunday on ESPN 580.
And that's a wrap.
All right.
Good job, man. I thought it was super interesting, man.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Thanks
Isn't
for
that
having me.
interesting stuff?
No, he does.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
It was. So do architecture companies also visualize?
When we do reports, we'll refer
Now back to Behind the Law with
to
Justin
real estate
Clark.
companies, architect companies. If you have your